Now let's have a chance to look at an example. So in this example, we're going to see Ms. Pollack, a fourth grade teacher, our lead teacher here, teaching a lesson on arrays. And what we want to think about here is that, one, whether Ms. Pollack uses a variety of response formats, and two, whether or not she's purposeful in being sure that students are using the response format that she intends. And so you'll see whether or not she does both of those things. So go ahead and watch Ms. Pollack, and then we'll come back together and briefly discuss it. So enjoy.
Today, we're going to be talking about this array. What are we going to be talking about, everyone? This array. Very good. And this array has several squares on it. You can see here. We are going to try to figure out how we can use the rows to figure out how many squares there are all together in the array. Let's think about our first question here. How many rows are there in the array? Show me on your fingers. Good job. There are 4 rows in this array. Let's point to them together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 rows in this array. How many squares are in the first row? Here's the first row. How many squares? Show me on your fingers. 3. Great job. There are 3 squares in this row. Let's count them together. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 squares in the first row. How many squares are in the second row, Jocelyn? Great, there are 3 squares in the second row. Thank you for telling me that out loud. How many squares in the third row, Roman? 3, you're right. There are 3 squares in the third row. And how many squares are in the fourth row, Teresa? Come on up and point to each square in the fourth row so we can figure it out. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 squares in the fourth row. Very good. So everyone, all of the rows have how many squares? 3. Very good. All of the rows have 3 squares. I'd like you to whisper to your partner to finish this sentence. There are 3 squares, blank, blank row. Actually, to fill in the sentence, not to finish it. Go ahead and whisper to your partner. I heard lots of good discussion happening. Sarah Ann, what did you and Dominique say? Great job. You said there are 3 squares in each row. That's right. So everyone, please take out your notebook and copy this down with me. There are 3 squares in each row. Little hint between you and me. I want students to use whiteboards to respond today. I'm going to do my best to make sure that they respond using that response format. Let's see how I do. And go. Today, we're going to be learning about this array. What will we be learning about? Please use your whiteboard to respond. You should have written down array. We will be learning about this array. Now, we want to figure out how many squares there are all together in this array by using the rows. Here is a row. So, how many rows are there in this array? Ooh, Sally, we're using our whiteboards today. Please write down how many rows you think there are in this array. Go ahead and show me your whiteboard. Good, you should have written down 4. There are 4 rows in this array. Let's look at them together. 1, 2, 3, and 4. There are 4 rows in this array. How many squares are in the first row? Here's the first row. How many squares are in the first row? Damien, keeping our voices off today. We're using our whiteboards. We're using our whiteboards, so you need to write down the number. You should have written down that there are 3 squares. Please show me your whiteboard if you didn't already. Good, there are 3 squares in the first row. I'll point to them. 1, 2, 3. There are 3 squares in the first row. How many squares are in the second row, Jocelyn? Write it down, please. Good, I like the way you wrote down that there are 3 squares in the second row. 1, 2, 3. Micah, how many squares are there in the third row? Please write it down. I know you want to share out, but we're using our whiteboards today. There are 3 squares, you're right, in the third row. 1, 2, 3. And everyone, let's say this all together. How many squares are there in the fourth row? You should have said 3. I saw some of you going to use those whiteboards, but I wanted you to respond all together for that one. There are 3 squares in the fourth row. 1, 2, 3. So all of the rows have how many squares, everyone? Oops. Make sure you write that on your whiteboard. We're not saying it out loud. 3. That's right. All of the rows have 3 squares. Whisper to your partner to finish this sentence. There are 3 squares, blank, blank row. All right, now everyone please write down what you had in your conversations, what you said in your conversations in the blank spaces in your notebook. All right, let's bring it back together. You should have written down there are 3 squares in each row. If you didn't write that down, please erase what you had and write down my answer that's on the board.
Okay, so you've had a chance to watch Ms. Pollock's video. What I hope you notice with her thought bubbles is that she had a plan for the kind of responses she wanted to elicit. In one example, she was very clear when she spoke to the students about how they would actually elicit a response. She would get them to respond in the correct response format. In the other example, you saw that she was not clear and it did not give her what she wanted. So it's really critical there that you see is that Ms. Pollock really worked hard to, in the one positive case, make sure that she was strategic about getting students to respond the way that she wanted. And I think that one of the things I often notice in classrooms is that teachers aren't sufficiently strategic about thinking, how do I want students to do it? And I've done this in my own classroom. The result is that a lesson doesn't go as well as you want because you haven't thought through what's the way I'm going to get students to actually do this. So you see her do a good job of that. You also see her use a variety of response formats in the good example there. And that's really valuable too because students aren't just seeing things one way, they have the opportunities to do things in multiple ways.